Hey guys, it's Lucky Ghost here, and today we're going to be talking about the solo Stamina Warden. Last patch, this build felt amazing. I ran it through vateshraan hallows, accidentally trifected the place, speedrun, no death, no sigil, no problem. I couldn't believe how easy this build made that content feel, and soloing anything in general. Zos made some tweaks to this class a little while ago that really helped it shine. It's in a fantastic position now, and so this patch, I ran it through the paces again. I made some minor modifications to take advantage of a new set in the game, and somehow it's even better than it was before. I think this was the easiest time I've had on any stam tune in vateshraan hallows so far. The damage this class is able to put out with the gear and the champion points and the skills that we've selected is absolutely insane, and it achieves all of this while being nearly impossible to kill. On my run this time, I only had one death to the lava, and I don't want to talk about that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. First, we're going to be talking about the skills, then the gear, then the race, the passives, and the Mundus, and finally the consumables and the rotation. I'll go ahead and put the timestamps down below. Let's begin. First up, the skills. The first ability on the front bar is going to be Subterranean Assault. Stir up a group of shocks which are going to deal 15,000 damage unbuffed after 3 seconds, and then 3 seconds after that they're going to explode again, dealing another 15,000 damage. And remember, as always, all of the numbers I'm giving you are unbuffed and out of combat. In combat, we're actually hitting quite a bit harder with our potions, with our buffs up. This ability right here is one you want to make sure you cast every 6 or 7 abilities or so. This thing hits so hard, and with the gear we've selected, it hits even harder. It's amazing, and it's a staple in this build, so be sure to use it frequently. Next up, we have Brawler. Brawler is going to be our spammable, and we're going to be utilizing some sets in this game to make sure that Brawler hits as hard as possible. The way Brawler is going to work with this build is the more enemies that we hit with every swing of Brawler, the more damage it's going to do to each one. We get a multiplier effect. The more enemies that are immediately in front of us or in the damage cone, the more damage this swing does to each individual one. It's a beautiful multiplier thanks to the Master's Greatsword that we're going to be using, and it makes this ability so fun, and it pairs so well with this class. Not only does Brawler do a ton of damage to all of the enemies in front of you, but for every enemy that you hit, it's also going to give you more and more shield. The more enemies you hit, the more shield you get in return, which means the more enemies that are in front of us, the more damage we do, and the harder we are to kill. It's one of my favorite playstyles in the game, and it is so fun, and we're going to build around it in this build so that it hits as hard as possible while being as indestructible as possible. The third ability on the front bar is going to be Executioner. When an enemy gets to around 31%, particularly a boss or something, and if you don't have a lot of things attacking you at once, you should start executing that low HP boss. Now, if you have multiple things attacking you at the same time as the boss, or if your health is in jeopardy, then you're going to continue to brawl. Brawl is going to do a tremendous amount of damage, but if it's safe to do so, you can start executing for really big single target damage. And remember to wait until 31% or below to start using this ability. The next ability on the front bar is Growing Swarm. We're going to be using this ability for a few reasons. Not only does this ability do a great amount of bleed damage over 10 seconds, but it's also going to put a debuff on the enemy, causing them to take 5% more damage from us, which means it's buffing Brawler by 5%, and our Subterranean Assault for that matter. Not only that, but there's also a buff we get for this class. So every ability we have slotted from this skill line is going to increase our damage by 2% because of Advanced Species, which says increases your damage by 2% for each animal companion ability slotted. Current bonus, 8%. This is huge damage for us. So we're going to front bar this ability to take advantage of the bar buff on our spammable bar, which is going to be Brawler. The next ability on the front bar is a fantastic utility ability. It's going to be doing 3 different things for us. Not only is it going to give us 30% increased move speed whenever we use it, and it looks freaking awesome, it's also going to give us minor berserk, increasing our damage by 5%. So there you have 5% here, 5% there. That's 10% alone from the 2 skills before you even take into account the 2% that you get from this and any other buffs that are going on. And then, as I mentioned before, we get the 2% for this ability as well. So that's another 2% 2% increased damage on top of the 5% that we're getting. It's a great bar buffer. It's a great utility ability for the move speed, and it's just fantastic for our damage all around while looking fantastic. The next ability on the front bar is Wild Guardian. This bear hits deceivingly hard. He follows you around, and the amount of damage he puts out is incredibly surprising. It may not look like it, but he's actually doing work while he's next to you. Not only that, you can activate him to unleash even more damage every time your ult is up, and he has an execute. So if you use him while the boss is below 25% health, he's going to do 100% more damage to that boss. Not only that, he's in the animal companion line, which means we get another 2% just for having him slotted. For this reason, this front bar is insanely powerful. This combination of abilities, this combination of bar buffers is largely what allows this class to just hit so hard. All right, now let's talk about the back bar. On the back bar, we're going to go with Endless Hail. I've chosen to go with Endless Hail because it lasts longer and I can spend more time on the front bar brawling. However, you could go with Barrage for a wider cone and a slightly shorter dot. This means you'll have to reapply it more often, but that's not so bad because you need to reapply Caltrops more often anyway, so it would sync these two up a little better if you wanted to line them up every time the dot fell off. Endless Hail is going to synergize incredibly well with our Maelstrom bow, which will be running on the back bar. And remember to always let your Endless Hail tick to its very last tick because each tick does more damage than the one before it. The last few ticks are going to be the ones that hit the hardest because of the Maelstrom bow. The second ability on the back bar is called Razor Caltrops. This is going to do a nice dot. It's going to be a nice damage over time ability that also slows the enemies that are caught within it. But most importantly, it's going to apply Major Breach to the enemy, reducing their resistances by 6,000, which is going to do what? It's going to make everything we do on this front bar hit even harder because their resistances are lower while we're hitting them. So it's very important to keep this up most of the time to keep the damage on the front bar elevated. The third ability on the back bar is Resolving Vigor. This ability is going to heal us for almost 16,000 damage over 4 seconds. Basically, as long as this is ticking, you are indestructible. So if you get in trouble, you have too much damage coming in, you can't brawl your way through it for some reason, then go ahead, switch to the back bar, cast a Vigor, do a dodge roll. By the time you get up, your health should be full. You can resume brawling and relaying all of your dots. All right, the fourth ability on the back bar is going to be Bone Edge. Bone Edge is a fantastic sustain and utility ability. It does a few great things for us, one of which is it's going to restore 5,000 stamina over 25 seconds. So that's a good amount of sustain. It's going to help us keep our stamina topped off. And it's also going to grant us Major Brutality, increasing our weapon damage by 20%. So as long as we have this up, we can get away with using a trash potion and we'll still have the 20% increased damage just with our basic stamina potions that fall off of mobs. On top of that, every 5 seconds, this Netch will remove one negative effect from you. That's pretty handy, especially in things like PvP. And the fifth and final ability on the back bar is going to be Ice Fortress. This is going to wrap us in ice, giving us Major Resolve. In other words, it gives us 6,000 increased resistances. We're also going to gain Minor Protection, reducing our damage taken by 5%. Anytime you see something say it does a flat 5% increase in damage or a flat 5% decrease in damage taken, that is really powerful. So we're going to be taking advantage of that. And then as for our ultimate on the back bar, we are going to go ahead and back bar Wild Guardian. If you front bar Wild Guardian, you must back bar it. Otherwise, every time you swap bars, it's going to unsummon the bear. All right, as for our gear, we're going to take advantage of the new set, Dagon's Dominion. This set adds a ton of weapon damage to all area of effect abilities. And most of our abilities are area of effect damage abilities. Our Subterranean Assault, our Brawler, our Arrow Barrage, or Endless Hail, our Caltrops, they're all AoE weapon damage abilities that are greatly enhanced by this buff. But the main thing that we're getting here is our Brawler, our primary spammable, is going to be hitting a lot harder because of this set. This set is going to be bringing a ton of weapon damage, and weapon damage is always greatly enhanced with critical chance. So our other set is going to be bringing in the crit chance. Zogvin, it's going to add a ton of weapon critical lines. Not only that, it's going to provide minor force at all times so that we don't have to run Barb Trap on this build. As long as you're damaging enemies, you're always going to have your max stacks because you're going to be critting frequently thanks to this set itself, which is going to give you minor force and tons of stacks of crit chance. On the front bar, we're going to be using the Master's Greatsword. This is the weapon that I was telling you about earlier that increases our damage done to the enemies in front of us based on how many enemies are in front of us. The more enemies in front of us, the more our damage is multiplied to each enemy. This is an incredibly fun item to use because it encourages you to group up large numbers of mobs and melt them down. You're very much rewarded for attacking more than one thing at a time. And then as for our back bar, we're going to be using the Maelstrom bow. I touched on this earlier. This is going to increase the damage that our Endless Hail or Arrow barrage do. This is what causes each tick of those dots to hit harder than the tick before them, and that's why this has been one of the best in slot back bar items in this game for an incredibly long time. As for our race, you've got a few options with the Stamina DPS tune. To maximize your damage output, you can either go Khajiit, Dark Elf, or Orc. You can also go Red Guard or Wood Elf to maximize your sustain. All 5 of these options are going to perform great, and the choice is really up to you which one you go with. Personally, sustain feels pretty good this patch, so I would opt for one of the 3 damage races, being Khajiit, Dark Elf, or Orc. Next, let's talk about our passives. We're going to be taking all of our animal companion passives because we're going to be using these to do damage. We're going to take Maturation from the green balance line. We're going to take the middle 2 passives in Winter's Embrace. We're going to take all of the passives in the 2-hand weapon line because we will be using a 2-handed weapon on the front bar. We're going to be using a bow, so we'll grab all of the bow passives. We're going to wear 7 pieces of medium armor, so we will grab all of the medium armor passives. We're going to grab both of the Undaunted passives. We're going to grab the continuous attack passive for 30% increased move speed. Remember, don't put 2 points into this one. 1 point is all you need. The second point really won't do anything to help you outside of PvP. We're going to grab all of our racial passives. And then finally, we're going to grab our medicinal use passive in alchemy. As for the Mundus, we're going to take Lover anytime we're soloing. This is going to give us more penetration. And if you're in a group, you can go ahead and replace Lover with either Thief or Shadow. All right, next up, let's talk about our consumables. For our food, we're going to use Lavafoot Soup. This is going to give us 5,000 stamina and 500 recovery. This is going to do big things for our damage and our sustain. I highly recommend using this food at all times. One of the best parts about this particular food is that it scales with your level. You can start using it at level 1 and use it all the way to level 3,600. It's that good, and it's not very expensive. Pick some up off of a guild trader every once in a while, and make sure to keep yourself running on this food. If you're running out of stamina, you're probably not using this food, and you're probably not using your potions, so make sure you do. The next thing we'll talk about is our potions. For most content, you'll be fine running your Essence of Stamina potions that you find off of mobs. You can buy these at guild traders, usually for maybe 9 gold a piece, 8 gold a piece. But when you start doing something incredibly difficult, you can go ahead and pick out something like Essence of Weapon Power. This is going to make sure you get Major Brutality, Major Savagery at all times. The Major Brutality is a little bit redundant as long as you're niche, but if it falls off, this will make sure that you continue to have the Major Brutality buff time 100% of the time. These can be a little bit spendy, so feel free to use these basic green potions most of the time until you get stuck on something, then start using these. As for the blue champion point tree, this is the one where all of our damage is going to come from. We're going to put 40 points into precision, 50 points into fighting finesse, and this is a slottable, so remember, you have to drag it up onto the slottable bar or else it's not doing anything for you. Then we're going to go into the elbow. We're going to put 40 points into piercing. We're going to go back out. We're going to put 50 points into reaving blows. This champion node says when you deal direct damage, you heal for 7% of the damage done, which is why we don't have to wear the Ring of the Pale Order with this solo build, and we'll still have a ton of health coming back in while we're fighting. And again, this is a slottable, so don't forget to slot it. Then we're going to go to Thaumaturge and put 50 points into that, and Biting Aura and put 50 points into that as well. Those are also slottables. Then we're going to put 40 points into Tireless Discipline. Then we'll go back into the elbow, and we'll put 20 points into Battle Mastery, and then we'll put 30 points into Mighty, and then we'll top off Battle Mastery. Then we'll go back out and we'll go into the chest this time, and we'll put 10 points into Quick Recovery. And this is where we're going to get our damage mitigation. We'll put 40 points into Preparation, 40 points into Elemental Aegis, and 40 points into Hardy. To find out where to put the rest of your skill points, be sure to visit the written guide in the description. But this is going to take you up to about CP 1560 or so. All right, as for our red tree, this is where we're going to get a lot of our life and our sustain. We're going to put 50 points into Boundless Vitality. This is a slottable. We're also going to put 50 points into Rejuvenation, another slottable. Then we're going to come down here to Tumbling and put 15 points into that, 10 points into Mystic Tenacity, 40 points into Hero's Vigor, 50 points into Bloody Renewal, which is a slottable, then 50 points into Ironclad up here, which is another slottable. Then we'll go back down to Tumbling and fill that up. Then we'll fill up Defiance with 40 points. Then we'll go over here and put 8 points into Hasty, 40 points into Tireless Guardian, and 45 points into Fortification. To find out where to put the rest of your champion points, be sure to visit the written guide. As for the green CP, just like I always say in these builds, pick the ones that look most interesting to you. So the ones that are going to be most useful to whatever activity you're doing at the time. Some of these make the items you find in treasure chests better. Some of these make fishing better. Some of these make sneaking better. Some of them make thieving better. So it kind of depends what you're doing. Are you picking up nodes? Are you opening treasure chests? Are you fishing? And then you're going to grab the CP nodes that apply. There's no wrong or right way to fill this out. Literally, it's totally up to you. My favorite ones are definitely Breakfall, which which is going to reduce my fall damage by 7% per stage for a total of 35%. It's saved my life countless times already. I really like Steed's Blessing. This is going to increase our move speed when we're not in combat, and also Meticulous Disassembly, which is going to give us better materials every time we deconstruct gear. So if you're deconstructing a lot of gear, you can't go wrong with this one. And don't forget to slot a note if it needs to be slotted. Okay, next up, let's talk about our rotation. We have two different rotations for this build. One is when we're dealing with a few trash mobs. The other is when we know we're going to be taking a lot of damage. Maybe we're going to fight a lot of trash mobs, or maybe we're going to fight a boss. Essentially, the difference between the two is you do not need to maintain Ice Fortress if you don't have a lot of damage coming in. This is here strictly for those times when you know you're going to need the damage mitigation that it provides, such as against large packs of enemies or against a boss that's going to hit pretty hard. The rest of the time you can drop this from the rotation, and what we're going to do is start with our Bullnetch and then drop our backbar dots, cast our Subterranean Assault, get our Growing Swarm on the enemy until the backbar dots start falling off. Then we'll go ahead and reapply those or the Netch as necessary. So it would look a little bit like this. And there it is. And we're just going to brawl basically until we see our Subterranean Assault go off twice. Remember, it goes off once and then again. So you'll cast that ability and you're just going to brawl until it goes off 1, 2. Now it's time to use it again. So that's going to be that 1 brawl, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there. So it's 5 brawls in between every Subterranean Assault, and you can replace brawl with any of the dots that fall off. Use your bear ultimate whenever it's up, and if you're nearing execute, for example, the boss is around 33% health or something, wait until it gets below 25% to proc the bear ultimate, as it's going to do 100% more damage if the enemy is below 25% health. So it will be worth saving it for a few seconds to use it when it's going to do double the damage. All right, guys, that concludes the solo Stamina Warden. As I mentioned before, this build and this class are in such a fantastic spot right now. It's never been a better time to brawl, and it's never been a better time to play a Stamina Warden. I hope you give it a try. Be sure to let me know what you think of the build, and as always, leave a comment below with any questions you might have. I try my very best to answer every single one of them. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video so YouTube knows to show it to other people. And if you ever want to hang out with someone else who loves ESO, be sure to swing by my Twitch stream at twitch.tv/luckyghost. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video.